for the Rayner.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker, and a Happy New Year to you and the rest of the House. Mr. Speaker, over the Christmas break, the world lost a giant in the fight of equality and human rights, the great Desmond Tutu. And I would like to offer my condolences to his family and to the people of South Africa. And I'd also like to thank all of those key workers who have kept our essential services running over the festive period, particularly all those staff and volunteers working at vaccination sites and our amazing NHS staff working incredibly hard with incredibly stretched circumstances. But I know we're going to come on to that after PMQs with the Prime Minister. And I'd also like to thank the formidable Sue Gray, who I know has been busier than Santa over the festive period. Mr. Speaker, in October, the Prime Minister said that fears about inflation were unfounded. But working people across the country are starting the new year facing rising bills and ballooning prices. So how did he get it so wrong? Mr. Speaker, inflation is about to hit 6%. That's the highest rate since the early 90s, when the Conservatives have been in power for over a decade, marred in their sleaze with a divided party, a Prime Minister losing the support of his backbenchers and governing shambolically, and a Labour Party, Mr. Speaker, who is ready to take over and provide the Britain with a better future. Familiar stuff, Mr. Speaker. The Prime Minister promised wage rises would offset inflation. They haven't and they won't. Millions of British workers now face a further pay cut, and his Chancellor is handing them a tax hike. What will the Prime Minister do to get a grip? Mr. Speaker, I've heard on the grapevine there might be a vacancy for Prime Minister soon, so maybe I should have aspirations. The Prime Minister pretends it's not his fault. He blames the global forces. He blames the market. Mr. Speaker, we're an aspirational party. Maybe the Prime Minister needs to be more aspirational for this country. But, Mr. Speaker, the Prime Minister has made political choices that has led us into this place. His government has failed to invest in long-term energy security. His government decided to let gas storages collapse. His government let the energy market run out of control. 27 energy companies have gone bust in the last year. And now household bills are going through the roof. Or as the money-saving expert Martin Lewis put it, there will be a seismic hit on energy bills. Can't the Prime Minister see what's happening yet again? Working families are picking up the tab for his incompetence. Mr. Speaker, I'll tell you what this Prime Minister is doing. He's increasing taxes to the hard-working people of this country. That's what he's doing. That's what he didn't promise in his manifesto, but that's what he's doing to the people. And I quote, Mr. Speaker, the poorest households spend 3 times more on their income on household energy bills than the richest households spend. VAT on energy bills makes gas and electricity more expensive. Not my words, Mr. Speaker, but the words of the Prime Minister himself. When energy bills are going to be hiked again in April, any decent government would find a way to help British families. Even the Tory backbenchers have finally accepted Labour's call to cut VAT on energy bills. So will he finally stand up to his Chancellor and do the same? So, Prime Minister, how's it going? Are you okay? The Prime Minister and his Chancellor have presided over economic mismanagement, low growth and neglect of our public services. And their resolution to fix this, whacking more taxes on working people. Combine the tax rise with soaring energy prices and the average family faces a hit of £1,200. This is an iceberg, Mr. Speaker, right ahead. So will he finally stop and change course?
Order. We started the new year not in the way we left the last one. You did give me an assurance we were going to try and calm down. So if we can, it will be helpful. Angela Rayner.
Mr Speaker, £1,200 hit right away. So will he finally stop and change course, or will he plough on towards what will be a disaster for thousands of families? Mr Speaker, this Prime Minister always gives with one hand and takes away with the other. Under this Prime Minister, the country is worse off. Prices for everyday goods are soaring out of control. Hard-earned savings will be hit, and the wages of working people won't go as far. Inflation isn't an economic theory. It has serious consequences for people's lives. We need serious solutions, Mr Speaker, to stop people falling into poverty or debt. Instead, Mr Speaker, we have this Prime Minister and his incompetent leadership. And every time we are faced with a challenge, he denies there's a problem. He tries to laugh it off. He looks for someone else to blame. So can I suggest to the Prime Minister, it's not about brushing your hair, it's about brushing up on your act. Does he accept his incompetence is taking our country backwards and costing our country dear? Nobody wants to mislead the House, and I'm sure the Prime Minister wouldn't want to do that either. Earlier I quoted the Prime Minister when he said that fears about inflation were unfounded. He said he didn't say that, and yet the Sky journalist Beth Rigby has now put up this clip on social media. So I'm just wondering whether the Prime Minister would like to correct the record.
If the Prime Minister wants to come back, he can do. If he doesn't, what I would say is, it's not a point of order. Stay there, stay, Prime Minister. Prime Minister, sit.
Run it away.
When you're ready. Ian Blackford.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. Can I wish you, colleagues and all staff, a good new year? Mr Speaker, over the last few weeks, serious warnings have grown over the Tory cost of living crisis, which will hit the majority of families over the coming months. New research from the Resolution Foundation has found that, on average, that families will be £1,200 worse off from April as a result of Tory cuts, tax hikes and soaring energy bills. Now, for members of the Tory government, £1,200 might not seem very much. For the Foreign Secretary, it is just another taxpayer-funded lunch in Mayfair. For the Prime Minister, it's just a roll of fancy wallpaper for his taxpayers-funded flat. But for the vast majority of families, losing £1,200 a year will be catastrophic. For some, it will mean that they can't afford to pay their rent and bills, to heat their homes or to put food on the table. So will the Prime Minister apologise for leaving millions of families worse off? And will he commit to an emergency financial package to reverse his Tory cost of living crisis?
Hear, hear.
My goodness, Mr Speaker, we're talking about a Tory cost of living crisis. So much for a new year, a no start, because it's the same nonsense from this failing Prime Minister. We've had the year of Tory sleaze, but now we've got the year of Tory squeeze for family budgets. Economists have warned that UK living standards will worsen in 2022, with the poorest households hit hardest by Tory cuts, tax hikes and soaring inflation driven by his government's policy. Under this Prime Minister, the UK already has the worst levels of poverty and inequality in North West Europe. Now the Tories are making millions of families poorer. In Scotland, the SNP government is mitigating this Tory poverty crisis by doubling the Scottish child payment to £20 per week. So, can I ask the Prime Minister, will he match the Scottish Government and introduce a £20 child payment across the UK? Or will the Tories push hundreds of thousands of children into poverty as a direct result of his policies?